You are listening to the Wannabe Collective, your new variety podcast featuring every fandom that you could possibly think of. On the Wannabe Collective, all wannabes are welcome. Greetings and salutations to all. Welcome to Keeping It Real. This is a podcast where we review movies. I am Gabriel Fast, and I am your host. And joining me are my other fellow wannabes, as we like to call ourselves, or that I like to call you guys. You know, I don't really think anyone really ever agreed to being called that, but you know, it is what it is. Here we are. I'm accompanied by one Ryan Dalton and one Mikey Collins. And tonight we are going to be taking a walk down memory lane to review and talk about, not even really review, just more discuss a few things about Iron Man 2 and its place in the MCU. And I'm really excited. So Ryan, how you feeling tonight, man? It's good to see you. It's been too long.
Yeah, feeling good. I'm happy to be back and happy to nerd out about stuff. I just got back from Phoenix Fan Fusion, where I got to have a very nerdy weekend talking about nerdy stuff, but also like talking about books 24/7. So I'm still kind of on fire from that. And yeah, this will be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm happy for you. I love seeing your tweets. I took kind of a Twitter break for a while where I wasn't really interacting with anyone or anything really. I just, I'd read it maybe once or twice a day. Everyone should do that if you're addicted to Twitter. Like, everyone should do that from time to time. But I always like seeing the hustle on your part on the Twitter timeline. You're always like doing the MG book chat and stuff like that. And sometimes I'll actually go on and like read what you guys are talking about. And it's like, this is really cool. You know, like you can really see the hustle.
That's my favorite. Yeah, that's my favorite part. I'm not I don't operate on Twitter nearly as much as I used to, just because I find it exhausting.
Yeah, it's so toxic.
But yeah, so I save a lot of that energy. But as many Mondays as I can on there, there's a hashtag that's specifically for anyone who doesn't know, specifically for middle grade writers and also teachers and librarians and all sorts of things. We get on there, we talk about different topics, talk about books, and it's great for connecting with people who put books in kids' hands. It's also great for connecting with other authors, and readers. And yeah, it's been able to connect me with several different reader groups, like sizable reader groups that I've given copies to, and they pass them around to a bunch of people and spread the word more than I could have. So yeah, that's been real nice.
Yeah, that's rad. I always love seeing that stuff, and it's awesome. You know, I wish that I was kind of forced to read. There was a time like in, like, I don't know, I remember like 4th or 5th grade where I was reading all the time. That was whenever Series of Unfortunate Events was like exploding. And, you know, we were like chomping at the bit to like get each new book. And I remember it was like ending like whenever I got into like 6th or 7th grade, I think. Like the last book was coming out, and I just remember seeing everyone reading it and being like, oh yeah, I wish I still read. You know, I wish I was kind of like forced to do that, because now obviously I told you off mic, I've been reading your book, which, man, I have to say, like, that is it's just, you don't really know. One second you're laughing with the characters and what they're going through, and then like literally it can be 2 or 3 paragraphs later you're like, oh crap, like was not expecting that, you know. And I'm really enjoying it, but been trying to get more back into reading. And I think it's super duper important, especially for young kids, because you just like, there's been so many times like a game like BioShock Infinite or something like that, I'm like, man, this would be amazing if this was like a series of books that I could read. Because there's so much stuff getting packed in there, and I think it really helps just understand storytelling in general, you know, way better if you actually can get through a sizable book, you know, a few hundred pages. Like, that's, you've really had to mull over what you just went through. So I think it's super helpful, but super cool to see you interacting with that still and doing that. And I'm happy that you're getting good reviews on your book and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's stuff. Very encouraging.
Yeah,
it's nice stuff when you spend years on something and people give it a good review. That's always nice.
Yeah, it's like awesome. Yeah. Now's my break. Mikey, how are you, my guy? How's it been?
Good.
Mikey and I we're the Destiny brothers. We play Destiny multiple times per week. And that's basically been our life, like the past literally like 2 or 3, 4 months, it's been Destiny. So, and I'm not mad about it. I mean, we're gonna do some game clubs on it here in the future, very, very soon.
I've been trying to fill my podcast void with video games.
Yeah, exactly. Same.
It's not healthy.
Same. Well, I mean, there's always something to be said. It's like if you're creating more than you're consuming, there's an issue because there's no way you have the bandwidth to do that. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Just a Scotia housekeeping before we get into our Iron Man 2 review, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to keep up with us on a more regular basis, there's a really good chance, we're all featured in the Wanna Be Critic podcast from time to time. Me, Mikey, also Jake Labriere and Elijah Middlesworth. We try and podcast as often as we can over on the Wanna Be Critic. A separate podcast feed from this one. Also Punch Counter Punch. That's where you can kind of that's me and Ethan Maestri's monthly show where we talk about the news that's been on our noggin the past few weeks, and it's enjoyable. So yeah, we have been on a bit of a break. Haven't really sat down to record anything in a couple of months. And I've really enjoyed it. Honestly, I've needed a break, but I feel good to be back talking about nerd stuff, as Ryan likes to say, to geek out. And I'm excited to talk about Iron Man 2. It's interesting. Me and my wife, we have this podcast called A Guy and His Wife that we try and do relatively regularly. It's a fun thing we do. It's hard to find time to do everything you want to do. But we attempted to go through the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It did not pan out the way we wanted it to. So I said, you know what? I want to do it over on Keeping It Real. So here we are. We've restarted. So I watched Iron Man 2 literally like a year ago or a year and a half ago, probably. And I sat down to watch it today. It was super last minute for you guys to be able to join. But I mean, I'm sure we've all seen this movie several times. And each time I watch this movie, I like it more and more. Like, there was a time where I thought this movie was just trash, like literally Thor 2 level. I don't know if you guys can relate to that, but am I crazy in thinking that like this movie gets better with age? Like I was thinking to myself, I just went and saw Doctor Strange, and that movie has 12 years of CGI and all kinds of stuff on Iron Man 2. And I'm like, I would have rather gone to the theater to see Iron Man 2 than that heaping pile of crap in Doctor Strange, which I'm sure we'll have to review at some point. And it's like, I haven't felt so bamboozled in a really long time, because I thought this was going to be epic. And it just is not, the Doctor Strange. But we're not here to talk about Doctor Strange. We're here to talk about Iron Man 2. I really, really like this movie. I can't say enough good things about it. I think the thing about it is it's literally the first movie all over again, except now instead of Tony Stark learning how to be Iron Man, it's Tony Stark learning how to deal with all the things that come from being Iron Man and the fallout of that, and or at least the negative things, of that. But I mean, what do you guys think? Like, how do you feel about this movie overall? Ryan, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I have an interesting relationship with this movie. For one, I've always loved it, even before it was cool. It got plenty of people liked it, but also got a lot of hate, like in geek circles, for a long time. There are elements of it that I seriously dislike, but overall, I would say it's still a movie that I love. I know we'll dive more in depth, but just in general, I will say the two things I seriously didn't like were the characterizations of Tony and Pepper. I understand what they were trying to do, but I feel like they dialed the changes up to 11 so that Tony wasn't just a mess, he was infantile, and so that Pepper wasn't just a foil, she was a shrill, nagging shrew. And and neither is fair to either character, because they're both great characters.
And this is the only time we see these characters act this way.
it's a very clear tonal shift that you didn't see before and you never see again. So obviously they must have known, oh, that's too much.
Yeah,
we
literally.
like went too hard at it. So those are the two things that I truly hate. There's a lot of things that I love and I love enough that I am still very happy watching the movie. Also the context that they, part of it for me is also the every time I watch it is the memory of the first time I saw it. And that's when this was the movie really that started to deliver a little bit on the promise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was the first one really that brought in like, oh, here's Black Widow, here's a legit other superhero, here is War Machine, a legit other superhero. And you're starting to see the expansion that was teased for so long and that people thought would never happen. And so that part, I remember the excitement of like, oh man, they're really doing it. And then at the end scene, Thor's hammer at the post-credit scene, and it's like, okay, so I remember the excitement and the anticipation being like, so this is real. I think we're actually building to the Avengers, which was just the wildest thought. And so, yeah, I have a lot of love for this movie.
Well said. What about you, Mikey?
Am I the only person that feels like there's way too much going on in the movie? Just like it's like there's like 5 or 6 different little storylines going on behind what he's doing. I don't know. It's just it's kind of like the intro, like the big flashy thing, and there's a bunch of stuff going on the stage. That's how the whole movie feels. But you're just like it's just hard to follow, which it's not badly written. I don't think it's easy to understand. I'm not saying that, but it's just like there's too much. I think that's part of why I don't really love it. I loved it the first time I saw it, but actually I'm kind of the opposite. Every time I watch it, I'm like, I don't think that's aging too well, personally. But
well, you can definitely see how Marvel movies matured as they went on.
Yeah.
Because this feels like a very young movie for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Compared to like the Winter Soldier or Infinity War things. I mean, you can chart how the MCU grew up and started even taking itself a little more seriously. I think as far as like really like making these awesome movies, and this as much as I love it, you can tell it is a little more amateurish for sure.
And it reminds me of like the new Spider-Man movies, like super similar formula, like especially even in execution and like tone. It's like Tony Stark's not really young, but somehow he's still coming of age, like and it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's juvenile. Like I think there's like a lot of heart there for sure. But yeah, I get what you're saying, Mikey, because there is some stuff where it's like, man, I just, like I said, I just watched it today, but I started number 3 right after that.
Yeah.
Ugh. So yeah, man, and man, 3 is so much different than 2 too, but 2
I think is still my most hated MCU movie. I hate that movie so
more
much.
Than Thor 2 or the Incredible Hulk.
Thor 2 to me was just boring and uninteresting. Hulk, I give a lot of leeway to because it was essentially the first MCU movie.
I like Hulk personally.
So yeah, I have no problem with Hulk. I enjoy it while understanding that it's the first effort of a fledgling studio.
Yeah.
So you have to see it as almost like a student film. So I enjoyed it for what it was. I went in thinking there would be approximately 2 MCU movies, that and Iron Man, and then that we would never see anymore because I didn't think there's any way they'd be successful. And then Iron Man came in and smashed everything, of course. So I don't mind Incredible Hulk, actually. I hate Iron Man 3 though. hate it.
I remember watching that movie for the first time whenever the kind of the concept of the MCU started to kind of finally click for me, because it's kind of, I don't want to say I'm notorious for it, but within our friend group, like most of my friends know that I didn't really know anything about the MCU until like 2015. But I remember watching Iron Man 3. I had never even watched, I think I had seen the first Iron Man, but I hadn't seen I hadn't seen Thor, Captain America, like nothing. And we watched Iron Man 3 and I was like, man, like this was kind of cool. I remember seeing like Rhodey when he falls from the sky, and thinking, man, this isn't like cheesy at all. Like this is pretty rad. But then you know, once we get to that review, there's one big thing about that movie that I'm just like, I just can't get on board with this. Like, this just makes no sense. And I'm sure we'll get to it, but I think I'm kind of with you, Ryan. Like, I think Iron Man 2 gets a lot of hate, and not really necessarily deservedly so. I don't think it's amazing by any means, but I don't think it's bad. I think it's literally almost like a carbon copy of the first movie with just a little more added to it, just one or two more layers, but pretty much like the exact same thing almost in a lot of ways. Mikey, do you have anything else you wanted to say?
I'm trying to think of my words because there's a lot. Just like with the comparison to the first movie, I think the first movie is better because it is, just to go back to my point, it's simple. It's way more simple.
Yeah.
Like there's like what two storylines going on with what's his name? The main baddie. Him, and then what Tony's doing, basically.
The dude.
Yeah. Yeah. And then some with Rhodey.
Oh,
but,
Stain, you mean?
Yeah. But this, it's like, okay, we're in Russia. Okay,
Yeah.
now we're back in America with the army. Okay, there's Tony. Okay. Oh, now there's we're at a race. Okay, let's keep going. It's just kind of, I don't know, it jumps around way too much.
Elon Musk is here.
Yeah, the Elon Musk thing. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, the first one's the classic hero's journey. That's the first one. I mean, just classic.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
beat
good.
for beat.
Yeah.
The second one, is, of course, with the sequel, you got to complicate things a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think of it in terms of a hero. It's a hero level up. So he's done the hero's journey, but now he has to go through his next big pitfall and his next level up as a result of that. So it is a similar arc.
Yeah.
Except that he's ascending to like the next level of being a hero.
That makes sense.
But yeah, the formula is also very similar. I also like, with the exception of a couple of things at the end, I like the villain. I thought he was cool. I thought he was a little bit different. It was fun seeing the down and dirty homespun tech against the very glitzy glam of the Iron Man tech. I thought Justin Hammer, I love every scene he's in. He's so much fun because he's such a weird guy that I love watching all his scenes. The thing I didn't like with Vanko is at the end, when he finally gets his moment to fight the two of them in his own battle suit, he fights the dumbest way humanly possible, and ends up losing horribly because he was a moron right at the moment of his triumph.
Yeah.
which I thought I did not like, because I thought, this fight and everything was super cool up until the minute he showed up, and then it got real dumb real fast. But up until that point, I loved the final battles, and thought it was fun. It made me think of the whole Armor Wars thing in the comics, which I know they're actually going to get to in the shows and everything. But that's it for now.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Mikey. Were you trying to say something?
No.
Yeah. I found myself kind of thinking like there's a lot of subtlety, honestly, especially with Tony. And to me, the thing that stands out the most about this movie is just how different Tony Stark is. And I was just kind of thinking like about a few things that maybe they unintentionally kind of strung together. I mean, I hope it was intended, but he's kind of on top of the world. He kind of like, gives like his big monologue, like, I'm the best, like I've done everything, like you can't beat me, I'm on top of the world, whatever. And then we kind of come to learn like he thinks he might be dying because of the arc reactor, like in his heart. And I like how they kind of put that there. It's like, well, wouldn't there maybe be an element of like, there's no more world left to save. I have this affliction that I'm kind of keeping private and to myself, like not letting anyone else know. And like, I'm kind of going to just like waller in this, and I thought like it was honestly, in a way, it never, I don't know if it was a full on, this is the result. I don't know how to like put my words together, but it's like, I kind of thought of it as the way he was acting in this movie was somewhat a result of the things that he was going through personally, and the showing us of his affliction, showing us that he was going through something was the physical like manifestation of that, you know, showing us like there's more to this story than him just kind of being a douche right now. You know.
Oh yeah, it's sort of like there's no tomorrow, and so
Yeah, I'm gonna live it up. I'm
But-
gonna party. It's my birthday. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was also a loose adaptation of the probably I would say one of if not the most famous Iron Man storyline called Demon in a Bottle, where and it was just him battling alcoholism really, and that's where he gave up the suit for a while, and you know, I forget if it was Rhodes that was in the Iron Man suit or someone else, but and so yeah, I really think that was intentional in him sort of losing personal control. They just did it with something other than alcohol.
Yeah. I never even knew that was a thing. I've never even heard of that story.
Yeah, it's real famous especially like among comic nerds. It's a classic storyline. So I understand like them having him who loses his way so much. I just wish they hadn't gone so hard at it to where he's essentially being babysat and talked down to by everybody.
Yeah.
They could have dialed that back like 10%. And I think it would have been better.
And it's not really like, I mean, yeah, he made a showy display of like the suit at the NASCAR car track, but it's not like he had like a full out Zod versus Superman battle in Manhattan or something like that. It's like he got a little, I mean, it kind of seemed to me a little bit of a overreaction on Shield's part to like, yeah, like you were saying, like basically babysit him. That never really made sense to me. And it doesn't really work to the plot of the movie. Like it's a very lame excuse for Iron Man to be away for X amount of time. Like he should have done something more drastic, in my opinion. I mean,
well, and it was a way to fold in Shield, which is what they were.
Yeah,
I think ultimately they were trying to. That's when they were starting to expand the actual MCU, and so I think they felt like they had to bring in stuff with Shield and everything. So yeah, I know Jon Favreau felt like some of that sort of intruded on what they were trying to do, and that may be part of why it's a little imbalanced. I think it's because there was some push and pull there, and they were still figuring out how to like serve the universe, but also serve it the one movie.
Well, and I bet they wish now they had the wherewithal to like, because you know they've done several things like with the Tesseract and stuff like that, being very ambiguous with things that had happened. Like how rad would it have been for the villain to get a hold of some sort of piece of tech that would then prompt Shield to be like, hey, you know, they could have given Tony his first psychic flash in this movie, maybe instead of waiting till Avengers to do it. Something along those lines. But I bet you they wish they had the wherewithal to go back now and be like, man, I wish we could have put a tease here. I mean, I get like the Thor hammer tease and stuff like that. It was a very lame excuse, or it was a very lame way to get Shield involved, in my opinion, just based off of what we see Shield do in the future. Like it's kind of just chump change in a lot of aspects. But it would have been really cool to see the villain with the whips, like if he had some sort of tech that was powering that, you know, and you know, he was already super smart, but maybe he had found a way to actually utilize what he had found. You know, that would have kind of made us scratch our heads a little bit. Go ahead, Mikey. Sorry.
Was Iron Man taken over? Like was Marvel taken over by Disney at this point?
No,
they weren't taken over by Disney, so they could have been a lot darker.
I don't think so.
Okay, so I was just been thinking about this. Like, okay, what if they in that scenario, if Iron Man actually accidentally killed him, like in Monaco,
yeah,
like during the race, and then what's his hoodie, the funny guy, I forget his name every time, man.
Sam Rockwell
got a hold of his equipment, and then he was the baddie. I think that would have probably been a little better, and because everybody wants to see more of Sam Rockwell, anyways. Like I think that would have made the story like, and then the ending, he would have fought terribly. You know, and then the ending, that fight scene would have made more sense.
Would have made more sense for
but I don't know.
That could have been interesting. Yeah. I mean, you could very easily write that to be an interesting story, and then it could be Tony wrestling with the fact that he accidentally killed a guy.
Yeah, and then that would merit
prompt,
Shield to be there and be like, dude, you got to settle down.
Well, and like Tony kind of, or Robert Downey Jr. kind of kills it in this role, in my opinion. Like with this particular movie.
Oh yeah, everyone does a great job.
Yeah, all the performances are rad. Scarlett Johansson, I was like, man, she really made a good first impression in this movie, and
that's honestly probably her best performance in the
I know what happened.
Yes, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something like that whole, especially in the early part where, and it's where nobody really knows her deal.
Yeah.
It was watching that, I was thinking, man, it would be kind of fun to be not a comic nerd watching this and having no idea why she's even here.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
discovering at the end, like, what? When she,
Yeah.
which honestly, my as much as I like a lot of the movie, my absolute favorite part is her mowing through all the security guys.
Oh my goodness.
Because it's like, building up to the, she's in there the whole movie and you don't really know if they're going to do her justice. And then at that point, we have not seen her fight at all. So we don't know how it's good. And then it completely 100% delivers. But my theater I was in, I remember, went absolutely nuts when she was taking those guys out. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
cool.
I had no idea who she was the first time I saw this movie. Like, I mean, I hadn't seen the Avengers yet. Like, I was like, what is she, what is she doing? I think most of us didn't know, who she was going to end up being, or that she was going to end up being like, what? She's an Avenger? Like, that's wild. But no, everyone did a really good job. And I particularly like Robert Downey Jr.'s performance because obviously the fact that he was even cast as Iron Man is insane based off of his record and just the way, he was notorious in Hollywood and stuff like that. And there's a lot of parallels and like a lot of symbolism between his personal life versus this role that he played. So, he probably has to have a soft spot for this particular film because it's a testament to his own personal redemption, which I thought was kind of interesting. I mean, he's actually done that a couple of times, like, because I know in Tropic Thunder, he did like kind of the same thing, like being like this notorious, like drug using actor, in Tropic Thunder. And it's like,
and if you see him in interviews, he's just the same guy. It's like a Chris Pratt casting. It's like, yeah, of course he's perfect for the role because it's him.
Yeah. And I feel like he has become even more so that since all this. I feel like, I don't know. I wonder if part of him sees Tony Stark as almost like halfway saving him,
I'm sure. Yeah, he's mentioned that a couple times, like it's the role that saved him,
Yeah, so it's not surprising that he's, pulled some of that character in and kind of owned it and is writing that. And yeah, it really, I mean, it suits him. I also have very fond memories of this movie because I was at San Diego Comic-Con this time, like right before this movie came out. Or cool. the con they had before it came out. I forget how long it was, but so I was actually in the Hall H panel when they previewed this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I was there, like the whole cast was there. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. So we knew it was coming, but sitting in Hall H, we knew we were going to see the Iron Man 2 preview, but we didn't know what it was going to entail. Yeah. We had no idea they were going to have the whole cast there.
That's crazy.
Scarlett Johansson is as beautiful in person as she is on screen, just to,
I'm sure,
allay your curiosity. But and then and then they showed footage, so we were the first people to see any footage. Cool. And so I remember, and it was, what is it, 6,000 people that can be in that hall, and so it was several minutes long, and they showed us lots of character stuff. They showed us part of that Senate meeting, which was really fun.
Oh yeah.
And then they finished off by showing us part of the final with the drones. And it was the first glimpse of War Machine. And I mean, 6,000 people only just lost their minds. And
that's cool.
They played it all again. And it was cool because the cast had not seen it yet. And so they were like, yeah, run it again. I want to stand here and watch it. And yeah, it was a total blast. So that's another thing kind of goes into my whole memories that's wrapped up in this movie.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've always wanted to go to Comic-Con just for that type of reason. We're like, oh yeah, I got to see that before anybody. That's cool.
How old were you whenever you were at that showing?
It was the 2011 show, so you can do your own math.
Well, I don't know how old you are.
11 years ago.
2011.
That was 11 years ago.
11 years. Good so Lord. I was 30.
You were 30. Man.
Mm-hmm.
Am I crazy in thinking that just like, I mean, obviously I know Comic-Con's still a thing, but do you feel like the internet's kind of like ruined the hype for stuff like more than it ever has nowadays? Like, I feel like I feel like the internet has its mind made up about how something is going to be before it even comes out. And then if it's a trending topic, that's all you see on your timeline is, and if it's not them like dissing it, it's them like theorizing constantly about whatever, and I understand, like, I like to theorize too, but I usually keep it to myself because there are just some takes that are just so bad.
Yeah.
I mean,
if it's a movie that I'm really, so if it's one I'm really anticipating, then I will purposely steer away from any of that stuff online, just because I want to enjoy the anticipation myself. And there's so many, like, as soon as like a trailer comes out for any kind of property like that, you have tons of like YouTube videos that are all like, here's what I think is going to happen, and I don't watch any of that because I just want to go in like I always have, and like maybe have my own theories or ideas, but just as fresh as possible.
I as of recording this right now, the 3rd episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi just came out yesterday, and this is a prime example of kind of what I'm talking about. Like,
I've only seen the first 2, just so you know. Don't.
Okay, I'm not spoiling anything. I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just saying I saw a lot of people talking about it on my timeline. Just their initial
Han Solo dies.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, exactly. Just seeing people like talk about it and just talk about like how perfect it was, and I to me, it's like I'm getting to the point now where unless I've already seen it, I don't want to know what anyone thinks about it, and I don't want anyone to ask me about it. I don't want anyone to say anything about it. Like, I want to be as blind as possible going into this thing because I watched it, and guess what? Like, it's good. It's a good episode, but I was expecting much more, and I haven't done that in a long time. And I just think I think Iron Man 2 would have received a way better mass reception if it came out today, like right now. And if the MCU was happening right now and Iron Man 2 is about to come up, if it got the same treatment that stuff gets today, which is just so instantaneous, I think it would be received a lot differently. I don't think anyone would say too many bad things about this movie. I'm going to be very candid. Like, this may be a crazy take. I enjoyed Iron Man 2. Like, I would put Iron Man 2 and Spider-Man No Way Home like in the same bracket for me personally. And I get there's a lot of sentimentality like towards No Way Home, but take the sentimentality and the nostalgia away. There is some good stuff there, but it's like not enough. There's also plenty of stuff I didn't like. And it's, to me, they just very much, almost all the Spider-Man movies, honestly, for me, like they kind of fall into the same category of, I really like them, but they're nowhere near my favorite at all. That is not, I know that might seem like crazy or whatever. That's not a bad take because I don't think this is a bad movie. And I think I'd like to maybe talk about why people don't like this movie. Ryan kind of mentioned his, what do you think, like, between the both of you, like, what do you think the biggest thing that people, what do you think the biggest thing about this movie that people don't like is?
I've never really heard anybody hate on it before, actually. I've never, because I wasn't really on the internet at this point, because I was only like 13, 14. So like I remember when I saw it, I liked it. And I talked about it probably with you, but you weren't really watching movies too much when this came out. But I don't know. Like, besides the story, that's the only thing I really have a problem with. Just like I said, how much goes on, but I don't know.
I heard there were a couple of things that people wouldn't let go of, like some plot holes or perceived plot holes. I'll give you one. The one I probably heard more than anything, which is funny because it's easily explainable. I heard a lot of people say, oh, well, how did Vanko know that Stark was going to be out there in the car, to go out there and ambush him? That didn't make sense. He wouldn't have known he was there, and this and that. To which my answer is, he might not have known until right up until then, and it wouldn't have mattered, because either way, either he gets Stark right then, or he starts attacking and he draws Iron Man out. That was probably his goal at first, is I know Stark is here, I'm going to attack and I will draw out Iron Man and I'll take him down in front of everybody.
A good point.
So it just was a bonus that Stark was the one driving the car. So it's not a plot hole. It's just people who I think grabbed onto that, and it was odd when it came out. I knew people that used that one thing as a way to say, oh, this movie's trash, and I'm like, that's not really valid.
I
Yeah,
never even thought about that.
yeah. I mean, me either. Just because like it's a superhero movie, and I usually don't put too much thought into how the bad guy gets there because I don't really feel like it matters that much. I
Better
mean,
job.
yeah. I mean, like they're a bad guy, and they, I don't know. A good example too would be like Guardians of the Galaxy. If you don't know anything about the war between all of that, around that time period and why certain people don't like each other, it's like, well, who is this guy? Like, he's a bad guy, I know, but and it's weird to think that Guardians of the Galaxy literally came out what, like 2 years after this, 2013, right? Guardians of the Galaxy came
We were
out
that close together.
2014, I think.
Yeah, but still
so,
3 years. I mean, in
Wow.
between that time, we get the Winter Soldier, we get Avengers as well. Avengers came out later.
Iron Man
that
2, yeah,
ahead.
Iron Man 2 was 2012. And then 2014 for Guardians.
I'm saying Iron Man 2 on IMDb was 2010.
Oh, you know what? Sorry. Wait, no, that's not possible because I saw it at a preview of it in 2011.
I mean, it's what
Iron
IMDb.
Man 1 was, when was Iron Man 1 out? I thought that was 2010.
2000. Let me check. Iron Man 2008.
2008. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, it wasn't before 2011 because I was only there. Oh, wait. You know what? I may be wrong. Hold
I'm
on.
gonna say it's on IMDb.
Hold
so
on.
we can tackle the
No.
IMDb police and say,
I may
listen
just be-
here, you idiots.
No,
Ryan Dalton
No.
said that you are
I
an
may
idiot.
I may have retconned my own personal history. So
Stop making up.
I think I am.
Stop making up stuff that never happened, Ryan.
I think I am wrong
God.
actually because I went to San Diego Comic-Con twice. I went in 2011 and I went in 2009.
Yeah.
So it was the 09 show. It must have been that I saw this. Then IMDb is right and I'm wrong.
I say had to have. I mean, had to have been. But
Never
still,
mind. Okay, so
I mean, I guess that makes more sense than like because I thought this came out in 2011. So 2010 to 2014, Guardians of the Galaxy. My whole point with that was, the bad guy shows up and there's a lot of ambiguity to it in a lot of ways. Like, as the common moviegoer, you don't really know what's going on or what's coming or why any of this is even important because this is just so against the grain of what we got, what we've had so far. This is a pivotal moment in MCU history. I have my own theories as to why people maybe didn't like this movie, and it's difficult to place ourselves kind of in the climate in 2010, just because, or at least it is for me because I was so young. Like I didn't really think about movies the same way that I do now, and I didn't consume. I didn't have discussions online with people and like consume stuff the same way that I do now. So it's tough to put myself in that position. But honestly, I don't think Mickey Rourke does this movie really any favors. I just don't really like him. And I think I remember specifically a lot of people not liking him, at least in my area. And also they were expecting, since Mickey Rourke, I mean, this is kind of, Mickey Rourke was already an established actor, and now he's like kind of sold out, like quote unquote, to like be in this like the superhero movie and whatever. And I think people were really excited to see him be the main bad guy, which he was really. I mean, when you really think about it, but people were so excited to see him front and center as like the main bad guy, and it was just not really presented that way throughout the entire thing. And I remember I think we went and saw this movie with a bunch of people, or I was in like watching it with a bunch of people. And I think it might have been actually the first time I saw this movie. And I remember being disappointed. I'm like, what? Like, he's already he's not doing anything. And then he shows up only to get completely sunned at the end of the movie. Like, that makes no sense. And I think around that time too, like, I personally like Sam Rockwell, but I remember people not really liking the flip flop of the villain like dynamic. So I mean, what do you think? Do you think that might have been part of it with Mickey Rourke's performance?
could have been. I didn't have a problem with this performance. I don't know. maybe other people are seeing something I'm not. But I didn't go with any expectations about the character, except that I knew like he actually went and spent time in a Russian prison to do research and things, and I admired the dedication. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a problem with it. I think I don't know, maybe people want him to be the only villain, but I like Justin Hammer so much that I don't mind them sharing the screen.
Yeah.
I think just like in my own head, part of the problem, Robert Downey Jr. is playing Iron Man, who is this larger than life character. Armie Hammer is playing that guy who's a larger than life character. And then you have him, who is like that. He's probably like the most realistic character in the movie. And that's probably why he sticks out so much.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is like, you know, I think that might be the issue for me, at least, because I'm like, I love his character if it was in a different movie. Like it just doesn't, I don't know. And then it seems like overcompensating when they give him like the whips and stuff. I'm just like,
yeah,
that's the weapon choice. Okay. Cool.
Well, that's right out of the comics. Whiplash was out of the comics.
I know, but I mean, just like, it just doesn't seem, I get the thing where people like something's off about it. I'm fine with it. Like it's cool, you know, but I can see that's how my brain sees it, where it's just like, he doesn't quite fit, you know, but
yeah, I mean,
for me,
it just seemed like a lot to kind of like we were saying before, it just seemed like a lot to kind of pack in. And I don't hate it. Like, I think it's fine. I just wish he would have been more front and center if he was going to kind of make his return. Like, he's kind of secretly just toiling away at his grand master plan. And we have Sam Rockwell's performance, which I actually did kind of like that scene whenever he's kind of putting together the new suit for Rhodey. And, you know, like they're kind of doing all that stuff. And
this little baby.
Yeah. I really liked how he's like going through all the weapons and stuff. And
yeah,
I like his performance, but I'm kind of with Mikey. It's like, man, I wish I would have like had more development for this character, you know, and Mickey Rourke, because they showed us, it's like, oh, this guy is really, really smart. Even though there's obviously like a language barrier, he has his own agenda, but that very much felt like it was on the back burner. And I don't really think it needed to be. Like, there was some comedy there with his bird and stuff. And I thought he was a good addition to the movie, but I could see where people would have been like, yeah, that was weird. Like, why was he even there? You know what I mean? Like, go ahead, Mikey.
You know what I wish they would have had back then? The one shots. If they did a one shot for him before the movie came out,
that'd be cool.
Or like a Too Fast, Too Furious prequel, where it's just like, this is what's going to happen. And this is who he is.
Yeah.
And then he's in the movie, but he's not in it that much, just like he is.
Yeah.
I think it would have been better. But yeah, like you said, I don't think he's in it enough. He's just, and then he totally like does all that stuff at Monaco and just takes a back seat.
Yeah, the entire time.
Like,
and that's fine. You need your like comic book flair, your Flash, you know, and give us an opportunity to see this new stuff that Tony's done to the suit so that he can, you know, do his thing. But yeah, man, it seemed like a very climactic moment in the movie came way too soon.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I don't think it had anything to do with his performance, but I don't know. I like this movie. Like, I'm not hating on it. Like, I come back to, obviously, you know, you critique the things you love, and it's like, I think I always try and see where people are coming from, like with their arguments, and like try and find some sort of common ground with that.
It's also, if you think about it, the villains are splitting time with what is the greatest threat to Tony in this movie, which is himself.
Yeah, totally.
So he's a third threat in the movie, and he's the biggest one to himself. And so you had to give that more time than you normally would have. And that, I think, had to subtract away from the time you would have put into, you know, developing the two villains.
Yeah. And I mean, I like how they kind of put in that he has all these like things wrong with him. Like, he has a complicated relationship with Pepper. He has a complicated relationship with his dad. And he's having to deal out with like the fallout of like dealing with his circumstances that he grew up with. And they really show a lot of like personal growth with him in this movie. And I really like seeing the arc reactor for the first time. And whenever he finally puts it on, he's like, oh yeah. Like, I thought that was pretty like comical because
Tastes like coconut.
Yeah, it does
metal.
like a slow like fade away. It does like a slow fade away from that scene to like the next scene. And I really liked Tony's character in this movie, and just seeing that personal growth that is pivotal for Iron Man. And really, this is a really good movie to come back to whenever maybe things that happen in, I don't know, Endgame maybe may not make sense or seem as on the nose. It's like, no, dude, Tony's a very selfish person at heart, and or he can be a very selfish person at heart. So people regress to bad habits all the time, or bad behavior all the time. Like that's part of like the personal journey and like growth. It's more than just being this hero that has to like do all this stuff. It's the personal journey as well. Go ahead, Mikey. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you were already talking. I was just gonna say that's my favorite, my second favorite. Well, that's actually probably my first favorite Iron Man line. Is tastes like coconut and metal. I don't know why I always gravitated towards that line. And I love that. And I am Iron Man, obviously, but yeah, I don't know why. I just, anytime I think of Iron Man or Tony Stark, I'm like, coconut and metal, right on.
I think my single favorite line in this movie is, I'd like to leave my doors unlocked at night, but this ain't Canada.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's funny. Good times. That's all I had that I wanted to talk about, and also kind of talked about on the fly. But is there anything else you guys want to add before we give our recommendations or not?
Why do the lasers never come back? Are those in any of the other movies at all?
They're in Avengers.
They are in Avengers?
Yeah,
I haven't seen that in a while.
He tries to cut into one of the big flying creatures,
right?
And its hide and armor are too tough, so he gives up pretty quickly.
Right. But that's the last time or something, right?
Because I think it's the last time. I think those fell victim to just every time he's in a movie, we got new cool stuff, so they don't necessarily revisit all the old cool stuff.
Yeah.
But it was very cool.
This is really cool, but Nantech, like,
but still.
Well, that and like when you get into the other movies, it's like he can start doing combos with people, like when he shoots off of Cap's shield and all that.
Yeah.
And so you don't necessarily see that as much, but you do get some other cool stuff.
Yeah, and it might probably would be overpowered, and especially that final scene in Endgame. He just wipes out literally everybody. I don't know.
Yeah,
but that's the only thing I can think of.
I'm glad we sat down to talk about this one, and I'm glad we chose to watch this one before the Incredible Hulk. Because man, the last time I watched Hulk, I didn't hate it, but it's like, man, this just takes me back to a time in life that just sucked. Like,
well, you have to compare it against the previous Hulk movie, which was just terrible
with David Bana. Oh my god!
So
I
it was
that one too.
It was a marked improvement over that Hulk movie.
Yeah.
I do think there are certain characters that are better in an ensemble.
Yeah.
And that you would struggle in a movie. You could do it with a comic all day, but for some reason in a movie, you struggle sometimes to make characters front and center. I think he's one of those. I'm not saying Doctor Strange is another one that is in terms of movies better as part of an ensemble cast.
Here's the thing too, just shortly about Doctor Strange, which we will get to in the future. The first Doctor Strange movie is head and shoulders better than the second one. It's not even a competition. It's not even close. And you could have done so many cool things with the second movie, and for some reason they thought it was okay or a good idea to just let Sam Raimi like make Evil Dead with superheroes, like literally is what he did. And it blows me away. And I was really gunning for Doctor Strange to kind of have more of a forward role, in the ensemble, which he does, like in Infinity War and Endgame, with kind of being front and center, trying to, he's pivotal to that story at towards the end, even though he kind of would have been lost in the mix if you didn't really want to go see Doctor Strange. So I kind of agree with you. Like, I really think Doctor Strange could be an amazing standalone story, but yeah, he, as of right now, like he really just thrives as kind of a side piece. You know, it's just it is what it is, you know. But anyways, I'm excited to continue. We probably will do Incredible Hulk next. We're trying to go kind of somewhat release schedule-y, instead of being canonical, because or not canonical, chronological. Everyone does chronological, and I kind of want to do release schedule and just kind of like reminisce around, you know, the time period, kind of like, you know, your story with Comic-Con. I almost called you Dalton. What am I saying? Comic-Con, Ryan.
Last name basis.
Yeah,
You
last
are
name basis.
partly correct.
I am. Yeah, Dalton's son. Oh God. Anyways, for me, if someone asked me today or told me today they had never seen Iron Man 2, I would tell them, "Oh, you have to watch it. Like, it's a must watch, even though like nothing huge happens. It's a really important like piece of Tony Stark's history, at least in the MCU. Like, I remember watching it with Emma, and I hadn't seen it since it had come out. You know, it'd been a decade since I'd watched it, and being like, whoa, I did not remember any of this stuff. And this is good, especially they really developed kind of like that brother relationship with Rhodey in this movie. A lot more. I really, really liked that. So yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's a must watch for sure. Like, if you have Disney Plus and you're already a subscriber, don't skip it. Like, it's a good one for sure. What about you, Ryan? Like, how would that fall for you?
Oh yeah, say yeah, definitely watch it. Even if there's elements of it that that aren't your favorite, it's still very worth seeing. I mean, you get to meet Black Widow for the first time.
Mhm.
If I recall, this is, I mean, aside from the end credits in the first Iron Man, this is really the first time we get to spend any time with Nick Fury.
Yep.
So I mean, it's a pivotal movie in the birthing of the MCU.
Yeah.
It's one of the.
It's super important.
It's the first one that really started to show the expansion.
Yeah.
So it's a linchpin of the whole MCU, really.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and it's super important. I mean, it's a solid movie and very important. What about you, Mikey? How would you kind of classify this one?
I mean, yeah, it does have its faults, but I mean, I don't think it's bad by any means. It's I don't even think it's in the middle. I mean, it's probably yeah. You guys kind of said it all. It's like, just watch it. You kind of have to if you want to know everything.
It's one. I mean, I would definitely revisit this movie from time to time. It's a good standalone movie. Like, honestly, this could have been a good first Iron Man movie, in my opinion. Like, if they would have, if they could have taken some time to say, like, yeah, hey, like, this is Iron Man, here you go. They could, I don't know, they could have it probably would have been too long, but they could have taken some time to kind of show how he got the suit. It wouldn't have been the same, but I think it could have worked. I don't know.
They would probably had
so good though.
Yeah, the first one is so good. It wouldn't even compare to like the quality of the first one, but I think this is a good even standalone movie because it doesn't reference anything that's overarching with any other characters.
There wasn't anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, except it. I mean, you see the hammer at the end, and you see one shot at the very last scene with Tony, like on the screen. You can see the carnage at the college with Hulk.
But
isn't Cap's shield in this one?
Yeah,
it's like an
it's
Easter
not.
egg, isn't it?
Yeah, it's any more of an Easter egg. It's not what really ended up being the shield, but
oh, gotcha.
But yeah, there was a version of the shield in it.
I remember that.
Yeah. So, well, there you have it. That's our review for / discussion for Iron Man 2, released in 2010, rated PG-13. How much money do you think this made in the box office?
How much money did it cost to make, first of all?
I can look that up.
Curious about that.
Iron Man.
I'm gonna guess 78 million. No, 70 million.
70 million. Okay, well, it had a $200 million budget. So.
All right, so I'm gonna go 400 million.
Okay. All right.
Probably way more. I don't know.
What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I'd say maybe 450.
626 million at the box
that's
office.
pretty good.
Well,
Yeah.
well, no wonder they decided they can make more.
Yeah, literally
Tripled it. What's the rule of thumb? Isn't it like money back
at
in
least
half
double.
or something?
Yeah, double.
Oh,
at
it is
least
double.
Because you also have to factor in their marketing costs and all that.
Yeah, that's true. Interesting.
How much do you think the first Iron Man, what its budget was?
78
I think it was about 100. I think it was 100.
Was it 100 million?
$140 million.
Was the budget?
Yep, 140 million. How much do you think it made at the box office?
More.
I'm gonna guess 580.
You're right on the money. 585 million.
Are you
Wow,
serious?
nice, man.
Dead
Very
serious.
nice.
Wow.
Yeah. you must have ESPN or something. Yeah. There's a 70% chance it's already raining. Good times, guys. Good times. Yeah, I'm glad this movie exists. I'm glad we're kind of getting back on track. As far as keeping it real goes, we're gonna aim for at least one a month, honestly. Really, really casual, long-term project. There are some plans to have more projects in the works, obviously, at other shows. I'm not fully decided if I want to make Keeping It Real a movie and TV podcast, because that's kind of what we do over at the Wannabe Critic. But we will let you know as time goes on. I foresee we still have to do Mandalorian season 1 and 2. We will be reviewing Kenobi in chunks. I would like to go through Stranger Things again and kind of talk about it, because it was kind of hitting me with this most recent season how it's somewhat of an anomaly. This show in a lot of ways really fueled the beginnings of binge culture, and it kind of set the precedent in a lot of ways for shows that are much better than it is. But I've never seen a show that requires people, or that basically gets people to spend an entire weekend binging this entire thing, and then we don't talk about it like for the rest of the year, or like for literally we do not talk about it at all in pop culture until it's like 6 months out. And it's like then hype kind of starts getting generated, and I like to kind of like tackle that with each season, because there is reason. And with this most recent season, which I did think is pretty good, there's definitely a lot to unpack that I'd like to do with some fellow nerds. So we might have to make that happen.
I'm not done with it, so don't spoil anything.
Yeah, not spoiling. I am not a spoiler at all.
I have 2 episodes left. I specifically stopped going at all to Slash Film, which used to be kind of my go-to movie and TV site, but they won't stop spoiling things in their headlines, and so I completely stopped going.
Yeah, well, I am a non-spoiler person. I hate spoilers. Usually if there's something I care about, I try and stay off Twitter until there's been plenty of time to talk about said thing. But there's a lot of really good things packed into Stranger Things as a show, but I would like to kind of like dive into the cultural, almost like psychological aspect of what makes the show so appealing, yet it's had longevity, but not consistent longevity in a lot of aspects. And I find myself saying like, yeah, this is cool. I haven't seen a season of Stranger Things in a couple years, and I only care about for the weekend that I watch it, and then I don't want to watch it. It's difficult to like want to rewatch a season of Stranger Things. I don't know. So there's definitely some conversations to be had there. So
I've rewatched all the seasons, but in like definitely not right away, because I love it, but it's a heavy show.
Yeah,
so
it's heavy. There's a lot of layers to it.
You gotta let it marinate before you go back to it. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those that's like, it's great, but it's heavy.
Yeah, it is heavy. It's heavy, baby. Anyways, we're gonna try and get a schedule out for stuff that's upcoming in the future. Get it put on the website, just in case you want to check there. But yeah, thanks for listening. We really appreciate it. We appreciate any support that you give us. I'm on Twitter at I think it's wannabecritic _. It's either wannabecritic _ or _ wannabecritic. I can't remember. I think it's wannabecritic _ though. So tweet at me if you have something you want to say. If you're on Apple and you like to give reviews for stuff, we would definitely appreciate it if you would give us a review of some sort. you know, it seems like almost kind of pointless to like try and climb the ladder of reviews like required on, Apple Podcasts and stuff, because literally there's so many podcasts coming out like every single day. But who knows, we can find our little pocket of people on the internet that jive with us, or we can just talk amongst ourselves and continue to put out content because it's fun, and it should always be fun. So guys, thanks for showing up tonight. I really appreciate it. Ryan, where can people find you?
On Twitter at iRyanDalton, Ryan Dalton on Instagram, RyanDaltonWrites.com is my website. And This Last Adventure, my latest novel, is available wherever books are sold, and that includes your favorite bookstore.
There you have it. Great book, This Last Adventure. I'm really enjoying what I've read so far. It gets you in the feels. It's good. Me and Ethan were talking about it actually. I appreciated his anecdote about whenever he finished the book, being able to say like, wow, it's kind of rad to be able to text an author, like an established author of a book you just finished. It's kind of cool. So Mikey, you don't want to be found, right? You live under a rock somewhere.
I mean, they found me. I'm here, baby.
Yeah. Good times. Thank you so much, as always, ladies and gentlemen, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye. Well, once again, thank you so much for showing up today. I really, really appreciate it. Again, if this is your first time here, consider subscribing. I know that's the thing that all the YouTubers do. Everyone's asking to sub. The fact of the matter is that it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, and who knows, you might even see a video every now and then that you actually like or may be interested in. Not only that, I do a bunch of stuff, so make sure you check all the information down in the description down below. We got podcasts, we got Let's Plays, we got all kinds of stuff for all kinds of fandoms. So make sure you check that out. I would seriously, seriously appreciate it, and I would love to see you around here more. I am Gabriel Fast. I will always be the wannabe critic.